Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Call back into open session this meeting of the Arlington ISD Board of Trustees for April 4th. It's 7:10 p.m. Thank you all for coming out with us tonight. We'll start our meeting with the opening ceremony. If you please stand and join Mr. Pompa in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And would you please join me in a moment of silence, and if you would, keep in your thoughts and prayers our police and firefighters and all those soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines who are overseas protecting us right now. Thank you. Please silence your electronic devices. The first item on our agenda is the musical performance by the Arlington High School Cello Choir under the direction of Linda Kiefer. Linda has taught in Arlington ISD for 41 years. She's been the head orchestra director at Arlington High School for 35 years. Mrs. Kiefer is one of the original 4 teachers who started the string program in 1972. And a little sad news, she's retiring at the end of this year. The Arlington High School Orchestra program began in 1976 with 11 students. The program now averages over 260 students per year in 6 orchestra classes. The cello choir performing tonight is made up of some of the cello students out of the symphony orchestra. They recently performed at UIL Solo and Ensemble Contest, where they earned a first division for their performance. The Arlington High School Symphony Orchestra has earned a sweepstakes rating in UIL competition for 35 years. They have been a finalist at the State Honor Orchestra competition 3 times in the last decade. At last count, there have been 144 all-state students from the program since the program began. The cello choir will be performing Ave Maria, arranged by Pitzenhagen. Go ahead. Thank you, Mrs. Keeper. And thank you, the Arlington High School Cello Choir. A couple of program notes. Item B, the Youth Education Town Student Recognition is going to be rescheduled. And under the discussion, development of a competitive compensation system, we're going to pull that and bring it back at a later date. And I did have one card regarding that. Jessica Levy, and Jessica, you're certainly welcome to stay and speak during the open forum for agenda items anyway. And before we get into the program itself, Mrs. Sullins, would you like to tell everybody why we're wearing blue tonight?
I would. Thank you, President Barron. This evening, we're wearing blue to recognize the National Autism Awareness Month, the movement Light It Up Blue. So it's a month-long program, so we hope to see a lot of blue, so we're wearing that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is TCU Community Scholars Recognition. Dr. Cavazos, what is that?
Thank you, President Barron. This time I'd like to ask Leslie Johnson, Communications Coordinator, to come and share some special information about TCU and future students that are going to attend TCU. Leslie?
President Barron, Dr. Cavazos, board members. Sam Houston High School is privileged to participate in the Texas Christian University Community Scholars Program. Tonight we are here to recognize 5 very deserving students. These students received this prestigious recognition, which includes a full ride scholarship to TCU. Joining us this evening are Sam Houston High School Principal Fernando Benavides and TCU Community Scholars Program Director Tamika Gordon. I'd like to welcome Mr. Benavides to introduce his students and staff that are here this evening, and Ms. Gordon will tell us more about the Community Scholars Program.
Good evening, President Barron, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to recognize some of our most outstanding students at Sam Houston High School tonight. First, before I introduce the students, I do want to recognize Ms. Carter. She's one of our senior counselors who has a tremendous support for our students, of all the students at Sam Houston High School. And then also Ms. Okina. She is our TCU advisor. She's also a Sam Houston graduate of 2007. And we do have some teachers in the audience, so I want to recognize them as well. Just raise your hand. There you go. All right, very good. Okay. It's truly a team effort to help our students, obviously, but the effort and the recognition tonight belongs to the students for all their hard work in accomplishing these goals. So first, Alma Luna, can you come on up, please? We have Brianna Brown, Jose Rocha, and Edith Moreno. And Tammy Dang could not be here with us tonight. So these are 4 of the 5 Texas Christian University Community Scholars recipients.
To the president and also to the board, my name again is Tamika Gordon. I am the director of the Community Scholars Program at Texas Christian University. It was started back in fall of 2000, where we are looking to recruit to TCU high-achieving, very deserving students. And I just want to let you all know that Sam Houston High School has continued to do a phenomenal job with its students. So I want to say thank you from the administration, teachers, counselors, parents, for your prayers and for your sacrifice. So these deserving students, as he said, 5 total. So we at Texas Christian University have just given your students a total of $1 million. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you for the honor.
Wow. All right, those are some happy kids, and don't you think their parents are happy too? More happy news. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Barron. I'd like to recommend the individuals discussed in closed session for the principal of Bowie High School, the principal of Seguin High School, and the principal of Nichols Junior High School.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion by Mrs. Pena, second by Mrs. Sullins to approve the list of appointees. Please vote. All members voting in the affirmative. Mr. Hogg and Mr. Hibbs cannot be with us tonight. Thank you. Tell us who they are.
Thank you. This time I'd like to introduce the principal, the new principal of Bowie High School, Mr. Bill Manley. Bill got his Bachelor of Science from Pittsburgh State University, his Master of Science from Pittsburgh State University. Bill has been interim principal at Bowie High School recently and has been Dean of Instruction at Bowie High School, has been an assistant principal at Bowles, has been one of our curriculum specialists for the Career and Technology Department, and has been a teacher of Career and Technology Education. Bill, congratulations, and is there anything you'd like to say or anyone you'd like to introduce?
Yes. I'd like to thank President Barron, the board members, and Dr. Cavazos for this great opportunity. Bowie is an outstanding campus with outstanding parents and students and staff, and it's truly an honor. There are a couple people I would like to thank, and the first one is my wife, Mary. She has supported me in all my endeavors and is with me tonight, and she is the reason I am who I am today and able to stand up here and take on this challenge. So I would like to thank her. I would also like to thank my parents, who are not here tonight, but they are watching online in Kansas, so I would like to wave to my parents. My parents' support my parents' support and guidance as I was growing up instilled in me a strong work ethic and fostered the development of the strong character that I possess. Watching them as I grew up, they frequently put others' needs in front of their own. This is translated over to my professional career as I make decisions that focus on our needs of our students. I would like to think of all the people who have influenced and provided support for me in the AISD throughout my 17-year career. I would like to specifically thank 2 people tonight, although there are many, many more. I would like to thank Michelle Wilmus-Sonato and Mr. Fernando Benavides. Both of them have been an integral part of developing me as a campus leader. Ms. Wilmus-Sonato gave me the opportunity and provided guidance on how to be a campus leader, hiring me as an assistant principal and then dean of instruction. Mr. Benavides furthered my development by challenging me and providing me opportunities for me to grow as a professional. I am grateful for both of them as being my supervisor, my teacher, and my mentor. I'd also like to make a short statement to the Bowie students, staff, and parents. My vision is to make Bowie High School a transparent educational institute that strives on excellence, ensuring that every student is fully prepared for the rigors of after high school in the college or career of their choice. We will provide an enriching high school experience where students excel in all areas, academics, athletics, and fine arts, and teachers embrace and thrive on the challenge of using rigorous instruction and assessment strategies that are engaging and relevant to our students' needs. Again, I thank each of you for the trust you have in me, and I commit to you to make Bowie an exceptional campus for every student, parent, and staff member. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new principal of Seguin High School, Mr. Sam Nix. Mr. Nix attended the University of Texas at Arlington, where he received his Bachelor of Arts for History and Political Science. He attended University of North Texas for his Master's of Education. Mr. Nix is recently the principal of Carter Junior High School. He's been an assistant principal at Hutchinson Junior High School. He's a U.S. history teacher at Workman, was a U.S. history teacher at Workman Junior High School. Mr. Nix, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say or anyone you'd like to introduce?
Thank you, sir. There is. President Barron, Dr. Cavazos, members of school board, thank you so much for this distinguished opportunity to serve in the capacity of principal. The teachers, the students, the parents, the staff, the stakeholders of the mighty Seguin Nation. I believe that under the leadership of Mr. Seguin, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, quickly, I forgot.
Yeah, got to follow you, right, Mike? There you go. I believe that under the leadership of Mr. Hill, that it's not an endeavor for me to come in and set a new standard, but I believe it's an endeavor for me to uphold and enrich upon a standard of excellence that has already been established. As an instructional leader, I look forward to working in collaboration with the staff, the administration, to ensure that all students receive a quality education in a safe, orderly, productive, and enjoyable environment. To my Carter family, I'd just like to say thank you so much for your dedication and for the commitment that you have for students. I'd like to thank my administrators, Mr. Meeks and Ms. Newberry, for their spirit of excellence and for their support. I'd like to thank the parents of Carter for your support. I'd like to thank the students of Carter. And I'd like to say publicly to the students of Carter, I'd like to say that I love you. And I'd like to say, sorry. It doesn't matter what anyone says about you. It doesn't matter what you look like or who you are, that you can do it. And you've proven that. So thank you. Sorry. I'd like to thank my family, my friends, my supporters. And most of all, I'd like to give all glory, all praise, and all honor to God for everything he's done for me. I'd like with me this evening are my mother, my sister, my niece, it looks like. Surprised she's being quiet. You know her, or my cousins. My fiance, thank you so much for your support. Thank you very much. And I am so excited about the future for Seguin. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new principal of Nichols Junior High School, Ms. Julie Harcrow. Julie attended Texas Wesleyan University for her Bachelor of Science, attended the University of Texas at Arlington for her Master of Education. Julie has been the principal of Ditto Elementary School, an assistant principal at Ditto, and has taught 4th grade at Ditto and at Key Elementary. Julie, congratulations, and anything you'd like to say, anyone you'd like to introduce?
Yes, thank you. President Barron, school board trustees, Dr. Cavazos, and senior staff, I am humbled by your confidence in me. I'm excited about this opportunity to continue my service with AISD. There is no doubt in my mind that with the resources available through AISD, along with the teamwork of the Nichols Junior High faculty, staff, parents, and community, we can provide the best learning environment for our Nichols students. Our comprehensive needs assessment will help guide us in our decision-making, and decisions that are in the best interest of our students will be made in a collaborative fashion. My experience as a proud parent of 2 AISD graduates, Ashley and James, who better be watching their mother over the internet, being a former PTA president, a teacher, and administrator, have prepared me for this next step in my professional journey. I'd like to express my extreme appreciation and gratitude to the Ditto faculty and staff. Their dedication and commitment is reflected by the learning the students demonstrate on a daily basis. One example is their willingness to step outside their comfort zone when we decided 3 years ago to implement Kagan cooperative learning structures campus-wide to increase our student engagement. Not only do our students benefit from these instructional strategies still, but they have become better teachers and learners as a result. We have had an exemplary ride for 5 years. Thanks also to the Ditto parents, community, and their wonderful students that we are privileged to serve daily. Finally, I would like to thank Jana Graham for believing in me and being the best teacher and mentor I could ever ask for. I also could never do what I do on a daily basis without the support and encouragement of my awesome husband. Most of the time. I needed a little humor there. A quote from Helen Keller is so true. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. I am confident that working together, we can create a new future for Nichols Junior High. Thank you.
If the appointees will follow Mr. Jones out to the lobby, we'll have a receiving line out there, and I've asked the audience to please allow the board to go first, and we will be back here in open session in about 10 minutes. Maybe 10. Well. Good evening, we're back. Next item is public hearing, and we have no public hearing tonight. Following that is the open forum for agenda items, and we have one card for that. This is a routine part of the school board's agenda for regularly scheduled meetings. This segment of the meeting provides citizens with an opportunity to share their views with the trustees on items that are on the agenda tonight. It is not intended to be a discussion or a debate, and trustees will not reply to the speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at an individual will not be tolerated, and personnel matters are not appropriate subjects for open forum. either this one or the one at the end of the evening. I have one card from the audience. Ms. Levy, when your name is called, please step to the podium. You will have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. And when the red light comes on and the buzzer sounds, please end your presentation.
President
evening.
Barron, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board. My name's Jessica Levy-Fornell, and I'm here as a spokesperson for the 3,700 members of the Arlington UEA. I'm here to present information and help you recruit and retain the most effective people for the continual growth of the AISD. As the district and the board furthers its implementation of the strategic plan, one of the key components is the recruitment and retention of effective leadership. To do this, we need to raise salaries by at least 4.5% and reinstate the district insurance contribution to 2010 levels. AISD is currently in competition not only locally, but with districts throughout the state. This Saturday, San Antonio ISD will be in Dallas recruiting. They are looking to entice away our pre-K teachers from us with the promise of a starting salary of $60,000. Furthermore, Irving ISD is actively promoting a statewide search for new teachers with a starting pay of $50,000. As the AISD opens a new elementary and replaces an increasing number of retiring teachers, we need to raise salaries to recruit the best. Our district also needs to retain talent that already exists here. This includes not only teachers, but paraprofessionals, bus drivers, maintenance workers. All these people are essential to the everyday operation of the district. These are the people that make AISD a truly premier district. We must outcompete other regional districts. Fort Worth ISD has already committed to a 3% raise for all employees, and Dallas is considering the same. Even if salary was 3% higher today in Arlington, our district would still not be in the top 5 compared to our surrounding districts. Besides raising wages, we need to also relieve the juggernaut that is the cost of insurance. Another goal of the strategic plan is to foster a caring culture of wellness. But this wellness will be difficult to achieve when the cost of insurance is going up and out of reach for many. Some will make the argument that insurance is going up for everyone. But when I recently spoke with some paraprofessionals about the 4 to 9% increase in their insurance, a para joked with me, "Soon I will have to write a check to the district to keep working here." Yes, it was said in jest, but this quickly is becoming a reality not only for our paras, but our transportation workers and support personnel, many of whom make less than half the salary of a teacher. By voting to reinstate the district contribution for all to 2010 levels, $260 a month, will help you and the administration rebuild that culture of respect and integrity we all desire. Your strategic plan is an ambitious target. I applaud it, but I ask, what does it take to turn these words into reality? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Levy. That brings us to the action items. Dr. Cavazos, notice of election.
Thank you, President Barron. President Barron, members of the board, you have before you the notice of election for the trustee election to be held May 11, 2013. The election is being held to elect members to 3-year terms for places 4 and 5 on the Board of Trustees. The notice of election shall be published in the newspaper and published in the territory that is covered by the election at least once, not earlier than the 30th day or later than the 10th day before election day. The notice of election shall state the date of the election, each place to be filled, the location of each early voting and election day polling location, the dates and the hours of early voting, and the hours the polls will be open on election day. If you approve the notice of election, it would be appropriate at this time to hear a motion for this notice.
Move to approve? No?
Second.
Oh, wait a minute.
I move to approve the notice of election for the May 11th, 2013 general election for places 4 and 5 on the Arlington ISD Board of Trustees.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Pompa. Please vote. All members present voting in the affirmative. We have an election coming up. Next, we'll consider appointing members to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Dr. Reich.
Thank you, President Barron. I'm making this report on behalf of our Citizen Bond Oversight Committee Board Liaison Committee, which I am chair. Joining me in this committee is Mrs. Pena and Mr. Hibbs, and we present this in the form of a motion, which I guess doesn't need a second because we are a committee. We recommend, after going through many applications, thank you to the public. There's a lot of interest in our district right now, and it's wonderful and positive, and it was a difficult process in going through and vetting out all of those, and I thank everyone that submitted their names. Out of all of those names, we had 5 slots that we had to fill. So we have 5 names here this evening, and if the board approves our recommendation, these individuals will serve a 2-year term, which will end April 30th of 2015. So, with that said, we recommend the approval of Tim Berry, Glenn Copeland, Kim Gray, Lindsay Mitchell, Javier Nahera. Those are our 5. We have 1 alternate, Larry Jordan, and as the current committee chair is rolling off the committee, we are also recommending appointing Ms. Jeannie DeKine as the chair of the committee. Now, if these applicants are approved, they will be notified and invited to an orientation session with the committee chair and district staff to understand the processes and get up to speed so that they can be ready to go during their first regular meeting, the next scheduled meeting of the CBOC. In addition to that, the current members that are rotating off the committee, we will be asking them to come back at a later board meeting for recognition of their service as well.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. This is coming from committee. We do not need a second. Is there any discussion? Please vote. All voting in the affirmative. Thank you very much. CBOC and the committee. The next item is to consider the superintendent's recommendation to terminate at the end of the contract term the probationary contracts of Winford Ashmore and Anthony Boris. And I will make the motion. I move to terminate the probationary contracts of Winford Ashmore and Anthony Boris at the end of the contract term in the best interests of the district and direct the administration to deliver notice of the board's action.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barron, second by Dr. Reich. Is there any discussion on this item? Please vote. There we go. All members present voting in the affirmative, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Are there any items to be withdrawn from the consent? Tonight we will be considering the items listed on your agenda under consent items. Mrs. Powell.
President Barron, board members, Dr. Cavazos, good evening. There are 3 bids on the agenda this evening for your consideration, and in all cases, administration recommends the lowest bids and the bids that represent the best values to the district. It's also my privilege this evening, I think this thing still has to warm up, it says. There we go. All right, to report donations. Our schools have received donations from the following individuals and organizations: the Arlington High School Band Booster Club, Arlington High School Baseball Booster Club, the Arlington High School Colt Kickers Booster Club, the Arlington High School Football Booster Club, Bowie High School Band Booster Club, Bowie High School Choir Booster Club, Lamar High School Band Booster Club, Lamar High School Tennis Booster Club, the Martin High School Band Booster Club, the Martin High School Orchestra Booster Club, the Martin High School Softball Booster Club, Martin High School Tennis Booster Club, Shackelford Junior High School PTA, Hill Elementary School PTA, Amicus Books, Arlington Lodge number 2114, Encore Club of Arlington, First United Methodist Church, Grissett Enterprises, Martin Sprocket and Gear, Jonathan Miller, Don Painter Photography, Patsy Pate, Reed Auto Finance, Rollins Jones Studios, Spring Creek Barbecue number 1, and Tarrant County Medical Society. The donations reported for consideration this evening total $44,308, which brings our year-to-date total to $870,078.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Thank you to the generous community. Is there any discussion on the consent? Please vote. All voting in the affirmative, the consent passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Powell. The next item was the item we pulled from the discussion, development of a competitive compensation system. We will bring that back at a later date. Next, Dr. Cavazos for update on the second review of the 2012-13 action plan.
Thank you, President Barron. As you recall, the strategic plan is a 3-year plan, and so we're in year 1. And so at this time, we're presenting, or Elaine Say will be presenting, our update to the Achieve Today, Excel Tomorrow strategic plan and where we are to this point of each of our action plans. So Elaine, welcome.
Good evening, President Barron, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos. I'm glad to be here tonight to review with you the activities that have been accomplished in the strategic plan and the time frame from November through March. So this is the second review. The components of the strategic plan are in place and progressing just as planned. We're in second review, and there'll be another review at the end of June, and then we'll report on the annual measures. Our first review covered the July to October time frame, and I was not able to be here at the time, but my sub, Dr. Carter, handled it admirably, I understand. But I'm here to take up where we left off after that review to share with you the second quarter. We will talk about the things that happened in the second quarter or the second report, but we'll also report on things that we anticipate to happen. So there may be some things that we'll talk about that are planned for a time beyond the actual March time frame. And you'll notice, if you've had a chance to look at the status reports, that as a result of the actions that have occurred in this time frame, some of the activities have been moved slightly or adjusted from maybe one area to another where the fit was deemed to be a little bit closer. And some of the timelines have had to be adjusted based on some of the prior actions that have necessitated moving things a bit. In most cases, they're moved forward in the calendar, and some are even pushing into the following year, will need to be reflected in the action plans for 13-14. I'll just go through the material goal by goal. We'll first start out with the goals that are in the Inspired Learners category. The Managed Performance Empowerment work is underway, and you will have a session with MPE consultants to continue the work in that area. Probably the biggest issue in the Learning and Achievement first goal is the curriculum audit, which is underway now. The curriculum audit materials have been reviewed, policies have been reviewed. They're done central interviews, making campus visits, and curriculum staff, central staff have been trained on the audit procedures themselves. And you'll have a board presentation on those results coming up within a couple of months. The other big piece of this goal on learning and achievement is the instructional models. There's continuing to be research done on the instructional model. I think you heard a presentation on instructional models probably a month or so ago. And the committee that's working through all of the issues around the instructional model believe that their work will push them into the fall before they'll be able to make a recommendation to the board. So that instructional models work is one of the items that will take a little bit longer than originally anticipated. They'll use the findings, or they'll review the curriculum audit findings in their work before that recommendation comes from that group. In terms of the demographic study, we will have the regular enrollment demographic results from the consultant that typically provides that. In addition, they'll provide those the other ethnographic type of information the district is seeking will be provided through that same consultant. This slide's not supposed to be here, but this one is. That one got in by mistake. In the higher education and career readiness area, goal 2, the CTE catalog that was basically developed in the fall is completed and is being used currently by students as they register for courses for next school year. The early college high school, the application is being set forward to receive that designation in the 14-15 school year. In terms of CTE courses, those courses that have already been approved, and you see those listed here, the registration for those courses is ongoing now. And in collaboration with Tarrant Community College, there's still work on additional dual enrollment courses that might be offered. Some may perhaps beyond these tend to start even at midterm next year, and then work continues on planning for the following year. Students that take dual enrollment courses have to earn a certain score on an AccuPlacer exam, and so there's student support offered through boot camps for those students. In case they don't quite meet the criteria, they can attend a boot camp to get some support. And they're also using an online course called A+ Advantage in that endeavor. Those boot camps there's several of them that have taken place in the November to March timeframe. And those will continue. The last piece in the higher education is, I think, a very exciting program. It's called Math and CTE, and this is a district training program for CTE teachers who teach math concepts in their CTE courses, but who may not come from a math background. So what they do in this particular workshop and training is they work together collaboratively with regular math teachers to help those CTE teachers learn how to teach those concepts in a way that's similar to the way kids learn them in their regular math classes, but that use the application for whatever content that they're using in the CTE courses. And that's a week-long course for the math teacher and the CTE teachers. It's very exciting. It's a model that, it's a national model that the district's adopted. Goal 4 deals with world-class facilities, and the district's using the MAPS software, Magellan Assessment and Project Planning software, and they're using that software, the Jacobs Project Management Group is, to conduct the two pieces of the facilities assessment. And one is the educational adequacy, so they're looking to see what the facilities actually look like in terms of educational adequacy type standards. And then they're also looking at, and that process has already started, and they'll also look at the physical conditions of the facilities, and that process will start later in May, or start in May. It's anticipated that facilities assessment, both of those components, won't be completed until September of 13, which should be in the fall, so beyond the school year. But remember, after they do look at the educational adequacy and physical conditions, and they'll compare that to the educational standards or specifications. And the project management is gathering information from stakeholders, and they started that in February and continued into March. They met with curriculum staff, technology staff, security, food service, athletics, and with campus staff, with principals, and citizens on the Bond Oversight Committee. I was just talking about that committee, to get their input to define those world-class standards and that approach that's going to be taken, so that all that process in terms of the facilities assessment is well underway, but slightly with the timeline pushed back slightly, or forward slightly. On safe and secure environment, lots of work in this area. The district standard IDs started being distributed after spring break. The visitor control system software, the Raptor software, has been installed at the campuses. The district has multiple levels, actually 5 levels of categories for employees in terms of access, so that they can control access by different people depending on the needs those people have to access different parts of the building at different times. Radios for campuses have been purchased, although that process is not completed yet. An electronic alert communication system, text messaging system has been put in place. And then the contract for elementary schools for a buzzer camera access system has been awarded, and the project's expected to be complete in mid-May. And in terms of the discipline specialist, that job description has been revised, and that position was posted in March. So busy area there. The last goal in Inspired Learners is highly effective teachers, and a new RFQ was issued for some consulting services. The RFQ was issued in February, and proposals were due in March. And those 3 pieces of the services were a review of current salary structures to ensure proper alignment across the different types of employees, an external market analysis, and then transitioning to the competitive compensation piece. So that RFQ has been out and back in. Effective leadership. A lot going on in this area too. Well, actually, there's a lot going on all across the district, as you well know. But as I was working with staff and they were updating their status reports and summarizing this, I sent this information out to Roz Keck when I sent it back to the district, and she says, wow, they're really on the ball. They're really getting all of this work done. And, I took on a big hunk for the first year, but, the staff's coming through with lots of productivity here. In terms of the staff retention support area, we had a group brought together representing school staff and department staff to provide feedback on the district working culture. And one of the steps that they did was to review the survey items that Studer had proposed to be used in the employee survey. So that was one of the steps in the process. And of course, the superintendent and you as board members have been making visits and attending conferences to work on this issue. And then across the district, professional learning community institutes have been conducted throughout the district for district and campus staff. Goal 8 is customer service, and those employee and parent surveys that were distributed in March and will be coming back over the next month-long period will have some feedback on the customer service, and then there'll also be a report card survey that will be conducted in May that will look at, will allow principals to give feedback on specific departmental services. Goal 9, leadership development. Here also lots of work. Development of an aspiring principals academy where the proposal's gone out, people have applied, they've already started work on interviewing folks, and that's going to be, after those candidates are selected, that work will begin before school's out, so they'll hit the ground running this school year. And then an aspiring assistant principal academy, that information went out in March, and so we'll have applicants there that will go through that same process of applying, being selected, and that's anticipated to start sometime in the time frame of the summer. And those will be year-long academies. There's also been sessions for principals on using data for instructional decision-making and training for new principals on DataWise. Studer will conduct a district-wide leadership training for all administrators, and that'll occur in May. And in addition to that, at the senior staff level, they've instituted a situation where they have 4 administrators, 1 from each campus level, and 1 central administrator, attend their senior staff meetings, and they go to a month's worth of meetings. And the purpose of that is to help develop capacity in those folks in terms of being a part of that decision-making process. The last area is engaged community. Goals 6 and 7 look at parent and community engagement. And here, you just have to ignore some of the wording here. Should not say a leadership team. It should say a community, a family and community engagement committee was formed. Leslie Johnson's been working with the group. It's got community staff, parents, business leaders, and it was formed to study the whole issue of family and community engagement. And what they've done is they've broken them into 2 subcommittees. So there's the family and the community group. And they're working in tandem to work the issues. So both groups will be working the issues of engagement for their respective groups. And they've been looking at online parent training programs and other methods of increasing parent community involvement. And they'll be conducting focus groups this spring to gather additional feedback about what kinds of engagement people are interested in seeing and what kinds of things they would like to be involved in. And they've also been looking at several systems for recruiting volunteers and tracking participation of parents and volunteers. So they've been investigating those. They haven't quite found anything that they love so far, but they're still working on that. Goal 11 is really focused on communication and sort of the communication of the district's strategic plan. And all of the strategic plan materials, as they're updated, they're placed on the website, they're distributed through social media, Facebook, videos are updated on YouTube. Then there's presentations presented by staff to community groups, school groups. And then they have these wonderful fact sheets. I know you've seen them, but they have all of the major topics that are being, the really major things like curriculum model, instructional models, facilities, all of those areas are highlighted and summarized in these fact sheets that are excellent communication tools. I love them, so just thought I'd point those out. But and they're also working on within the communications department on development of an internal communications plan. And there will be using the feedback that comes from the survey work that's being done in the district to help inform that planning. Any questions?
Dr. Reich.
Thank you, President Barron. Thank you, Elaine. Great progress, great information. One question I have is with the work that you've done with other districts as a comparison, have you seen other districts, I guess in simplistic terminology, bite off this much?
Actually, I've seen them bite off this much, but what I haven't seen is being able to produce this much.
Even better.
I really have been impressed because, you know, the danger is the biting off too much and then not being able to get it done. Well, having to push a few timelines back is one thing, but just not being able to get to things is another. And I have been very impressed with the fact that no balls are being dropped in this process. Everything's being addressed, and when you meet and work with staff, they're on the ball. They know what's happening, and you know, of course, the next step in this process is for the development for the plans for 13-14 to be developed. And I have great confidence that, you know, the things that need to continue that began this year will be followed through and followed up in succeeding years. And then, of course, there's a whole set of new initiatives or new pieces that come in for the second year. So, you know, you're just going to be adding on. And, you know, a few things will drop off that are substantially complete, so to speak, but, you know, much of the work from the first year will continue beyond year one.
Well, and with that, I would say thank you, Dr. Cavazos, and your team back there and throughout the district. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you very much for all the work you're doing. Really appreciate it. The community really appreciates it. The only other thing I have is not necessarily a question, but a request for information on the parent and community engagement leadership team. If we could have copies of the roster and maybe when those meeting schedules are, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, and that leadership team, that terminology doesn't really go with family and student engagement. That was kind of like my mistake piece, so.
Okay.
But it's family and student engagement with the family component and the community component.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Before we continue, I'd like to ask the folks that came in and are standing at the back to please take a seat. And if the gentlemen would remove their hats. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the legislative update. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Barron. At this time, we'd like to present a legislative update, and Cindy Powell will be presenting that information. There's a good amount of activity happening with our state legislature, and so Cindy Powell will summarize that activity. Cindy?
Thank you, President Barron, board members, Dr. Cavazos. I was actually just trading texts with someone asking if the House had progressed to vote on their version of the budget, and I was told no, they are still working on the amendments, and I think that they were up to about 175 out of 240 amendments, so they will be there a while. All right. We do have an update to share with you on the activities, the major activities that have occurred in the legislature since we last met, and I'm going to focus on just several bills. To remind everyone, the board has adopted a legislative agenda that covers the 5 items you see on the screen, 5 categories of items. The deadline to file bills was March 8th. Thankfully, and you can see here we have a total of 5,769 bills that have been filed, and that's very comparable to the last session, in which there were about the same number of bills filed. So, in terms of appropriations, the House and the Senate each create their own budget each year, and generally it usually winds up in a conference committee where they work out the differences between the two bills. So the Senate has already approved their version of the budget for the next biennium, and that particular budget adds almost $1.4 billion back into public education. That has passed the full Senate, and now then it moved over to the House for their consideration. Well, as soon as it gets to the House, they immediately just substitute their version of the budget for the Senate version. And so their version of the budget actually adds $2.5 billion back to public education. And that particular bill is being debated literally as we are here this evening. As I said, they are still working on the amendments and will probably be there for a while. Ultimately, the House bill will be voted on, go back to the Senate. If they don't accept it, then the two versions of the bill will go to a conference committee to be voted or worked out, the differences worked out. Would note that I saw an email message just a moment ago that there was an amendment that passed this evening by 103 to 43 to approve an amendment which says that public money must be spent on public education. So that has been amended into the House version of the budget this evening. So that's good news. All right. In terms of what the two different budgets mean for us, Moat Casey and Associates, legislative consultants, have modeled the impact of these two different budgets for Arlington ISD specifically. And in terms of the Senate budget, that particular budget would, if it was passed, would increase our total maintenance and operations revenues by a projected amount of $8.9 million in the 13-14 year and $15.1 million the following year. The House version that is being considered this evening, remember it adds almost $1 billion or over $1 billion more in funding to public education, and so that version of the budget, if it was passed, would mean approximately $16 million of additional revenue beyond what we would generate if the current law remained in effect in 13-14, and $23.6 million more in the 14-15 year compared to what we would get if the current law stayed in effect in that year. So it does not restore all the funding that the state cut 2 years ago, but for us in our particular situation, certainly it is very beneficial. Another bill, just to point out, House Bill 1025 is a supplemental appropriations bill for the current biennium, and this is a routine budget amendment, much like the mid-year budget amendment that we bring to the board. That particular budget has been left pending in committee as it has been discussed in committee. It would add another $500 million back to public funding or public education for the current biennium, but again, that is still pending and has not even passed out of committee yet. House Bill 5, this is probably the big signature piece of legislation for public education in this session, and it addresses public education accountability, including assessments and curriculum requirements for school districts. That passed the full House by a vote of 147 to 2. The bill is very favorable, had tremendous support across the state from school districts and public education organizations. It adds flexibility for high school students in their graduation plans. It reduces the number of end-of-course assessments from 15 to 5. And it actually creates a single diploma plan, but several different options for endorsements on that diploma. So now then, this particular bill moves to the Senate for their consideration. And on the Senate side, there is a Senate Bill 3 that also has to do with graduation requirements and curriculum assessments and funding actually of certain courses required for graduation. And that particular bill was scheduled for debate last week and again this week by the full Senate. And in both cases it has been pulled and postponed until further notice. This is a comparable bill to House Bill 5, but again, it has been pulled until further notice and has not yet come to the floor, the Senate floor, for discussion. Again, this particular bill creates one diploma plan and has options for endorsement in one of 4 different areas for students. And it would require that students take end-of-course exams in the courses that they enrolled in, where there is an end-of-course exam. So that could mean anywhere from 8 to 12 end-of-course exams, depending on what a student is enrolled in. It actually requires that as either 7th or 8th grade students that they take a career explorations class, and it does actually fund that class, and that would be great news for us given the new career explorations class that we will be putting into place next year in our junior high schools for 8th grade. House Bill 14 was debated in this week, and it relates to fiscal transparency and accountability. This was one that gave not only school districts but also other public entities such as cities and counties some concern because of the requirements related to bond election ballots. This particular bill required extensive additional information be included in a ballot that really would confuse voters and make it very difficult for people at a polling site to work through what it is that the entity is requesting. And so there was a significant effort made by a number of different entities to talk about those concerns to the committee, and that bill has been left pending in committee, and so that is something that we are still watching. Also, since the last time we met, the Senate confirmed Michael Williams as the Education Commissioner. He had been the interim since September, and he told the Nominations Committee that his top priorities were top 10% graduates and the requirements of getting into colleges, proper number of assessments for students, and the public education budget. And so with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Dr. Rush?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Ms. Powell, for the update. I just wanted to provide a little bit more information for my colleagues. House Bill 5, the big testing bill, it's huge, decreasing from 15 to 5. SB 3, kind of the counterpart, as Ms. Powell said, is it's deliberately being stalled right now. She didn't say that, but that's the reality of what's happening in Austin. The longer they can stall it, the more likely lobbying groups that want more tests will get more tests. I say this because we have to be active. We are active as a district, but we've had a great accomplishment on the House side, a great statement from many people across the state. And in order to try to help this along, I would urge everybody on this board, everybody in this room, anybody that's listening, to contact your local delegation on the Senate side, to contact our lieutenant governor, our governor, bug the heck out of them every single day, because they're all in cahoots. It's all very deliberate, and I'm just putting it out there. That's how it is. And I don't think anybody wants more tests. I'm pretty happy from going from 15 to 5. I don't want to see any more than 5. But that, I believe, is the deliberate plan that's underway right now. So I just want to put that out there, as well as our TEA commissioner has said on the record that he likes the number of tests where they are, which is very interesting. So we have some work to do as far as the Legislative Affairs Committee and our board advocating for our district. So I just want to put the information out there for everybody to consider. It's moving fast and furious. It's great to hear on a different note about the budget amendment for the public dollars for public use only. No nonprofit scholarship program, tax credit program, whatever it may be, AKA voucher program. So that's very encouraging that the House put that on there. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thank you, Ms. Powell. Now we come to our open forum for non-agenda items. This second open forum segment of the meeting provides citizens with an opportunity to address the trustees on any subject except personnel. This is not intended to be a discussion or a debate. Trustees will not reply to the speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at an individual will not be tolerated. I have 8 cards from the audience. When your name is called, please step to the podium. You will have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. And when the red light comes on and the buzzer sounds, please end your presentation. I will caution all the speakers tonight that you may not mention a person's name unless you're that person. You may not mention a student in this district unless you're the parent or guardian of that student. And please follow the lights. Our first speaker tonight is Ms. Hunt. Representing UEA, her subject is kindergarten aides. Apparently they couldn't spell Deborah. Good evening.
Good evening. President Barron, school board members, staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Deborah Hunt, and I'm a veteran kindergarten teacher here in AISD. I'm here this evening to make you aware of a request that many kindergarten teachers have voiced concern about, and it's about the reduction of the teaching assistants. Several years back, the district reduced the number of assistants to help kindergarten teachers. I'm at a campus with 5 kindergarten sections. There are campuses with 9 kindergarten sections, full class sizes. We have 2 at our campus, 2 teaching assistants for 5 teachers with full class size. There is 1 campus with 9 and only 1 teaching assistant for the 9 teachers. With that being said, the reduction of teaching assistants for kindergarten hampers teachers' abilities to work with individual students on a daily basis. It diminishes opportunities to implement any effective literacy programs or time to provide small group hands-on math or any other instruction in the classroom. Because early childhood impacts readiness and the teaching assistants work alongside the teachers to help the children in the classroom, that helps develop our learners. The reduction of teaching assistants in AISD has not allowed kindergarten teachers with enough quality teaching time for our students in reading, writing, number recognition, or core content. Many teachers have also mentioned a concern for the safety of the children during specials and on the playground due to the lack of the number of assistants that are needed and the loss of those assistants. The assistant teachers were a vital part of the success of AISD's kindergarten program. Our teaching assistants are worth their weight in gold, and we should invest in that, which will make us a premier district, our students. We need our teaching assistants back. The lack of assistants is impacting kindergarten instruction. As I take my seat, and to paraphrase the old adage, not funding this is being penny wise and pound foolish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Our next speaker this evening is Mr. Clifton Edwards. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards' subject is a call for a trustee resignation. Good evening, sir.
I am a what now? I didn't hear that.
Sir?
Good
You're
evening.
on.
My name is Clifton Edwards, Mr. Barron and the board. I'm simply here as a citizen of Arlington. There are several situations at schools concerning teachers that brought my attention to the severity of the actions taken by teachers. I won't be long. However, I am concerned about certain things that have happened, and I'm not really happy about the situation as it comes out. And I'm sure that you all are aware of not only the first one, which was the most recent one concerning a student in a special ed class that was basically could have choked to death on pencil shavings. Each and every one of you in here in the sound of my voice, adult or otherwise, just think what would happen if you had to experience that situation right now, let alone a small child in a classroom where a teacher did this to them. Second of all, I want to carry your attention back to possibly January or February of 2012. A young man stood up. He interrupted his teacher. I'm sure it wasn't the first time. However, based on frustration and whatever reason that she decided to respond the way she did, he stood up and declared that he was a Mexican. Now, I'm sure, as I stated before, it's not the first time that he probably interrupted that class, but the response from a teacher was, go back to Mexico. White America is no longer a majority. Texas, the state of Texas, is basically between 64 and 65% Latino, Mexican, or Hispanic, whichever you decide to be called by. I grew up in the 60s and 50s and 60s. I was born in Texas. I grew up in Los Angeles. So it's hard for me to understand why racism is still so prevalent among our citizens. As I stated, I won't be long because most of the time we have a problem accepting the fact that racism still exists. And as a growing up in Los Angeles, California, it was white America against black and brown America. Now here in Texas, I found out to my surprise, it's Mexican, Latino, Hispanic against blacks. And all over the Metroplex, from Fort Worth to Arlington to Dallas, to name a few, I've never seen so many outrageous acts by teachers concerning students. Growing up in California, school was a safe haven. You went to school because your counselors cared about you, your teachers cared about you, your coaches cared about you, and the assaults on young people and students nowadays is unacceptable. And it grieves me to see some of the responses concerning some of the outrageous and lack of proper punishment for these teachers. And I understand that one teacher, she said, oh, I didn't mean to say that. Did those words come out of my mouth? I meant to say go to the principal's office. I don't have to tell you what that was. There's another teacher. She came back to school, was in the classroom again real soon, real quick, and because of outcry from possibly the parent, but more or less because of people of interest who saw that as an outrageous act. It was illegal. It was basically she should have gone to jail. And yet, she showed back up at school. You said I couldn't call names. I wouldn't call the names, but I'm sure everyone is aware of the situation as it is. And as I go to my seat, that must be 1 minute.
You got a bit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yellow Button. However, I just wanted to leave that on your minds and put that in your conscience. Determine whether your child would have been either one of those childs in that situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Our next speaker this evening is Kev Tatum. His subject is institutional racism.
Good evening, Board. My
Good
name
evening,
is
Mr.
Keith
Tatum.
President of the Texas Southern Christian Leadership Conference. My subject It's centered around the last time I was here. I came with a genuine desire to communicate with you, both publicly and in private, but it appears that that has not happened to date. So I come to share with you our position. This board's tolerance and defense of institutional racism is unconscionable, indefensible, reprehensible, and continues to foster the impotent rage that is prevalent in many of our children of color, especially our African American males and our Latino males. Your desire to marginalize, minimize, demonize, criticize, oppress, suppress, and reject our cries for relief for our children of color has forced us to conclude that the Arlington Independent School District does not embrace black children or black staff within this district. Here are some of the highlights. Arlington ISD refused to allow Obama to speak to students. High school student placed red and proud nigger hater stamp on his back of his truck. Hill Elementary staff refused to work for a black principal. White teacher tells Mexican students to go back to Mexico. And most recent, white teacher pours pencil shaving down a defenseless African American male student's mouth. 7 out of 10 Latinos and 8 out of 10 black boys are punished severely for many discretionary offenses. 2/3 of black boys are ill-prepared for life after high school, and many of them show no record of academic success. Yet your board decides to demonize me in a way that I think is insulting and unacceptable. And we're not going to tolerate it any longer. And therefore, we are asking all citizens of good conscience to pull back their economic support of this city until this district decides to address and deal with the constant barrage of racism that continues to impact the African American community. I'm also offended about how this board, especially Mr. Pompa, treated my good friend Richard Castillo. Luis Castillo has tried to pull people together for many years, black, white, brown, it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter. But yet how you all have insulted him and the League of Latin American Citizens who have tried to work with us and you to resolve these issues of institutional racism is something that we will not tolerate any longer. So to Ms. Grace Alderman, to Ms. Bridget Davis, to all those who were insulted by the letter from your board, we apologize to them publicly, but we will stand up for them. 45 years ago today, Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee, 45 years ago today. Before he died, he said if a man hadn't found something he's willing to die for, he isn't fit to live. I'm willing to die for what I believe in, Mr. Pompa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. Our next speaker is Mr. Luis Castillo. I didn't see Luis out there.
He is running late.
Thank you.
He said he'll be back.
How about Diane Rowe? Say that again, please, ma'am.
I've made all my concerns via email to the board already.
All right. Kara Hackley. Ms. Hackley, subject is injustice of wrongful accusation. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you very much for giving a forum where everyone can be heard. I'm a mother of 4 kids in the AISD district, 6th grade through 12th grade here. Very actively involved in PTAs at all levels and very actively involved and very supportive of the teachers that support and teach our children. And we've been privileged enough up until recently to be in a school district where I felt that all children, all teachers of all colors, I've never seen racial division until recently. And I will say my concern today that I bring before you is that we have accusations that are made in regards to a specific teacher, name not to be discussed, where it's turned into something or tried to be turned into something racial. And I've known this individual for 16 years. She is the least prejudiced person I personally know. She loves people of all color, of all backgrounds, regardless of what your color, regardless of your economic status, regardless of your educational ability. She has loved and been very faithful to students of all colors. And for an individual outside of our community that is not even part of Arlington, for an individual to make accusations that anything that had to do with this circumstance had to do because of the color of someone's skin is a travesty. To have consequences doled out to this individual, consequences, real consequences, which continue to go into play. My mother told me, and I've passed on to all my children, be careful when you point your finger, because 3 fingers point back. What I see is, if anybody knows this individual, that the only racial targeting has been because it was done by somebody that happened to be white. Racism is not. It is ugly. It is a hideous thing. I grew up in a home where I was taught God created us all equal. He created us all. No one is better than anyone else. No one is less than anybody else. We are all equal. I would like to think that before people make accusations, they get to know the individual, because I know this individual, and therefore the accusations are hideous, and they are very wrong, and they couldn't be more inaccurate of this individual. And so my request is that the board does what's right by all people, regardless of color. And I would hate to see accusations made, false accusations, that would have consequences for somebody's livelihood. And they've never been substantiated. There's nothing racial about any issue. So my desire is that we look at the individual's record, and that individuals that come and scream something, I don't want it to dilute true racism, which unfortunately is alive in our society. It's hideous, it's ugly, and it's real. But when accusations are made to an individual that is not a racist, it dilutes the true meaning of racism. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hackley. Our next speaker is Tom Hackley, support of teachers accused of racism. Good evening, Mr. Hackley.
Good evening. Thank you, President Barron, Dr. Cavazos, the rest of the board members. To avoid being redundant, I'm going to just stick with one point. My concern is throughout all this same topics that we've been hearing about is that we have elected competent people onto this board. We hire to a high degree, very competent educators, and we have checks and balances all in place to deal with issues that come up, of whether it's disciplinary, competence, whatever. My understanding is that through one of these recent incidences, the board, or the administration, I should say, dealt with this thought it was over. An outside influence decided for the AISD it wasn't. My concern is AISD in charge of itself? Are we handling our own business, or are we going to jump every time or any time somebody doesn't like the results? Now, I believe we have, that's what elections are for. If somebody is not doing their job, we vote them out, we vote somebody else in. Elections should speak the people's mind, and hopefully that's what it will do. I just want to make sure that you ask yourselves, am I voting, or am I acting on my own conscience, what I feel is best for the AISD, for the teachers who we support, or am I afraid of what the court of public opinion might be saying? Am I just having a knee-jerk reaction because I'm afraid of whatever it may be, not getting reelected, lawsuits, anything that should not come into play when what we're here to try to do is create the best education system for the children. I came through AISD. I graduated from Sam Houston High School. I've got 4 kids in the AISD. I'm here to stay. We're pretty invested in this place. I just want to make it known from my personal opinion that I want to know that when we elect folks to this board, you're going to stand up for what is right for the teachers, because we interact, as a parent, we interact with the teachers, our students and the teachers. We want to know that the administration supports them. When we make a decision, you stick with it, and we can get on with the business of educating the kids. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mr. Ackley. Mr. Ron Overton. And last chance for Luis Castillo. Thank you. The open forum is closed. Superintendent's report. Dr. Passos.
Thank you, President Barron. This evening I have a good amount of information to share about our students and some of our staff members. First, Nancy Rushing of Ferguson Junior High School received the DAR Outstanding Teacher of American History Award at the local and state level. This award honors notable full-time teachers of American history in public, private, and parochial schools, grades 6 through 12. Next, Nancy will be considered for the national level award. Congratulations and good luck to Nancy. Bowie High School senior Relius Johnson was recognized as an avid superstar for March. As an active student, Relius was nominated and selected based on his leadership within the classroom and in the community. He is an inspiration to those around him as he works hard to understand the deeper levels of concepts in schools. He also leads the cross-country team while mentoring the underclassmen in balancing school and athletics. Congratulations. The Lamar Avid seniors climbed to the top of the Guadalupe Mountain in West Texas over spring break and took a picture of me.
Is that you with them?
Apparently so. With them. Yeah, that's what I thought. This senior challenge is designed to test the physical, emotional, and mental strengths of the students as a metaphor for what they have overcome throughout the high school years, and it will take with them as they move forward. Keep up the great work, seniors, and thank you for the trip up the mountain. Board Vice President Bowie Hogg was selected out of a pool of more than 200 nominations as one of the class of 2013 40 Under 40 honorees for the Fort Worth Business Press. The committee selected Bowie because he is an individual making a difference in the Arlington community. Congratulations on this great accomplishment, Mr. Bowie Hogg. The Arlington, sure, you can clap.
See, we need his picture over here.
That's right, he's up there. The Arlington Chamber of Commerce and the AISD recently distributed awards to creatively driven students for a wide variety of diverse ideas presented at the annual AISD Entrepreneurship Day at UTA's College Park Center. The motivation behind this annual event is to inspire 3rd through 7th graders to push themselves into an entrepreneurial spirit of creativity through the development of products that they could sell or businesses that they could create someday. And I can tell you that the ideas that were generated that day, or recognized that day, I should say, were just simply outstanding. And I think a lot of people in the audience were very impressed with the young people and the types of ideas that they could design and create. Cynthia Carter from Sam Houston High School has been selected as a 2013 Very Important Counselor for the Texas A&M University. She is one of among 26 counselors selected for this prestigious program, carrying with it a $1,000 scholarship to be awarded to a student at Sam Houston High School planning to attend, of course, Texas A&M University, or Texas A&M University at Galveston this fall. Congratulations, Cynthia, and thank you for your hard work, dedication to the students of Sam Houston, and the difference you're making every single day. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. Board members. Mrs. Pena.
So much time goes by that I start thinking, okay, did I already report that? So I'm just going to say I did a lot of things. Attended some events with Tony, or Mr. Pompa, Financial Futures with Mr. Pompa and Mrs. Sullins, and met with the staff and community in regards to potential language curriculum to be added to our opportunities for our children. And I can't remember some of the things I didn't put down there in my calendar, but I start forgetting how far back do I go. I'm just busy.
Mrs. Sullins.
Thank you. I was also pleased to attend the Entrepreneur Day, and if those of you have not had a chance to look at the big ideas that our students come up with, it is really exciting. Shoes that grow with feet, and on it went. So I was very proud of our student engagement and the types of things that they did. And I want to thank the Crouch Elementary class of Miss Valerie Juddis. I spent some time with this class, and this week they sent me a stack of letters and pictures, and there's just nothing better than reading the perspective of 4th grade students. And again, I'm so amazed that these 4th graders are so focused on college and career readiness and their path. So I'm looking forward to coming back to see you soon. Thank you.
At the Entrepreneurship Day, some of those inventions defied the laws of physics, but those kids can probably figure that out. I got to attend with Dr. Cavazos and some other folks the Rotary Club South Arlington awarding of 10 awards to the top 10 kids in each high school. I think that's how it worked out. Fascinating. You would just be amazed at the quality of the kids that were graduating. You saw it this evening with the 5 students from Sam Houston who got full rides to TCU for $1 million. The top 10 from each of the high schools each had just a remarkable story, and it's incredible. I was so happy for them. Saturday. 9:30 Saturday at the Professional Development Center. Senator Wendy Davis will be there for a town hall meeting, and she welcomes anybody to come out and wants to talk about education. Okay, so if you're interested, get out there and talk to her. And that's it for my report. Mr. Secretary, do we have anything follow-up from this meeting?
The only thing was the request that I made about the roster and the meeting calendar for that parent community engagement team.
Okay. And that takes us to our parent-student grievances. Before we get into the grievances, we'll be starting with grievance A and then going to grievance B. But before we do that, we're going to take a 10-minute break If you're not a part of the grievance process, we will ask you to leave, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. The next item on the agenda is to consider the parent-student A grievance hearing. We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to sections 551.074 and 551.0821 of the Open Meetings Act. Section 551.074 provides that the meeting may be closed to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Section 551.0821 provides that the Open Meetings Act does not require a school board to conduct an open meeting to deliberate in a matter regarding public school students if personally identifiable information about the students will necessarily be revealed by the deliberation. I ask that everyone who is not a party to this hearing and who is not going to participate in this hearing now exit the boardroom. I thank you for your cooperation. Now we're in open session, so we can open the doors. Thank you, everybody, for coming in.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. We are in open session. The next item on the agenda is to consider the parent-student B grievance hearing. We will now adjourn into closed session pursuant to sections 551.074 and 551.0821 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Section 551.074 provides that the meeting may be closed to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Section 551.0821 provides that the Open Meetings Act does not require a school board to conduct an open meeting to deliberate in a matter regarding public school students if personally identifiable information about the students will necessarily be revealed by the deliberation. I ask that everyone who is not a party to this hearing or who is not going to participate in this hearing now exit the boardroom. Thank you for your cooperation. We're going into open session now, so could we please open the doors? Some door opener person. And I need a motion.
I make a motion that we uphold the superintendent's decision on this case.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Pompa, a second by Dr. Rice to uphold the superintendent's decision. Please vote. Okay, all in the present voting in the affirmative, motion passes. We are further directing the superintendent to implement the weight training, safety, and team building program district-wide. Further, we direct the superintendent to report implementation of this program via the district website. adjourned. We're going into closed session for other district matters. We will not be returning into open session. 551.072 and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code for the following purposes. Consultation with general counsel to seek and receive legal advice pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. And to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. We will not be returning to open session.